think we should do it because it's already really late. So whatever.
Tak, it's.
Yeah.
Is that okay? Give him a phone.
Yes, please.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Can you see us okay?
Yes, I can. You?
Yes.
Yes, we can see you.
That's
Hello.
great. Is the sound good?
Yes.
The sound is great.
Hey.
Thank you so much for accepting our invitation to discuss with us. I'm gonna leave it to the students immediately so they can ask your questions. So guys, go ahead. Andrew.
Yeah. So my question is, how did you get into graffiti? Why do you prefer it over other forms of art like painting or photography? And does it have anything to do with it having a stronger, more physical role in taking back the city?
Basically, I don't accept the term graffiti for what I do because it's not the typical mediums of graffiti. I don't use spray cans, for example, and my most recent work is installation in the public space. I like it though because painting in the public sphere or creating installations. It has a stronger effect on the passerby, on the viewers, on one hand and on the other. What I feel is that it's a statement against the art industry. The work is there for some time and then it's destroyed, painted over, or removed by the state or other artists.
Okay. Andrew, yeah, go ahead.
I have a question about your color schemes. You tend to use a lot of blue, especially in backdrops, for your work, as well as some red as contrast. But it's like the red is usually more minimal compared to the blue. Does the color have some significance, or is it just more of an aesthetic appeal for you?
This was the first period when I used the blue backdrop. I tried to create a link between what is actually happening now in art in Greece and a movement which was curing back in the 30s and 40s in Greek art. So it was a sort of idealism on that era where it was Greece, a beautiful country, island, etc. And now it's not like that, especially in the urban environment. So the blue, it's sort of a link to tradition and traditional Greek colors. On the other hand, red, and it's not the only one, I like yellow ochre as well. These are, from my point of view, colors creating a link to the nature and to the colors that I perceive when I see, for example, the Cyclad Islands and the mainland, especially in the spring and the summer.
Thank you.
Dimitri, go for it.
So being in a city like Athens where they're so attached to the past and whatnot, how do you feel that affects your choice of spaces and your content or context of your work?
Initially, I was mostly active in downgraded districts in the city center, where you could see a lot of illegal immigrants and refugees. And it has a historical background as well, because this district I tend to work in used to be residencies for the bourgeois class back in early 20th century, but now it's the exact opposite. But most recently, I tend to create in the west side of Athens, which is working class districts. So from my point of view, art is becoming a sort of communication medium with the working class and low mid class.
Yeah, what about works though on like Viva la Revolution and then like statues, ancient Greek statues, and like in general using this ancient art theme in your work, incorporated in your work?
That was an element back in 2010 and 9. It was as the crisis was affecting the West, but not yet Greece. It was a sort of, from my point of view, opportunity to motivate masses to a sort of social rebellion, a sort of agonism against all this suffering coming from the markets, but it didn't succeed.
Okay.
So this that remake, from my point of view, of Delacroix's painting or the statues calling people to revolt or not to vote, it was sort of a personal attempt to motivate people. But this is not what I'm actually creating anymore. I think my works in the past years, couple of years, are more dystopia.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Ashley.
There's a circulating idea that if you do political graffiti in Greece, you will be very famous very quickly. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, I initiated back in 2007, and no one would pay attention to us. I mean, we weren't more than 3-4 artists. In the beginning, we didn't even realize that somebody else was doing it. Then in 2011, the New York Times were attracted by this movement, and the Guardian from UK. So that, as I think about it now, it was a sort of the initial mass media neutralization. But then it was the beginning of the boost of this movement, and then a lot of artists started doing it. Which, as I think of it now, it was a sort of temptation to get the light on yourself. So I agree.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead, please.
I want to go back to what you mentioned about your work, that your current work, you would describe it more like an installation rather than graffiti. And how do you feel about describing your work in the terms of the canon of the mainstream of the art world, which is an installation? So when we talk about an installation, it's something that is very conceived very properly. It's usually hosted in a museum. It can be collected. It can be somehow, it's more like a mainstream. So I would like to find out, how do you describe, what do you mean by installation in the public space?
Well, what I do is I use the windows of ramshackle properties in city center mainly. These properties belong to the neoclassical era in architecture, which was a sort of architectural movement imposed to Greece by the Bavarian era in Germany. This is back in the 19th century. So these houses now are in a very bad state. What I do is I use objets d'oeuvre and other stuff, and I insert them sort of in the window to create an illusion that somebody is there and tries to communicate with passerby. The materials I use are so fragile that, trust me, it won't last more than a week. So I think you won't see them in a gallery or in a museum ever.
So how do you would define your practice as far as agency in the urban space, and especially in contemporary Athens? Do you feel you create agency through your work, or it doesn't matter?
I would describe them more subjectivities, trying to communicate with people. I'm trying to not just to create a critical discourse, but in a way interpret things that are happening now, but viewed in a more general way. This is not the first time we see a crisis. So what I'm trying to do is increase awareness, and I use multiple elements to that. So I would go more with the term subjectivity.
Okay, within the same kind of context, was it your choice not to be part of that exhibition of Onassis Cultural Center back in 2014, and why?
What has happened is initially in their teaser video, they used images of my works, so I pulled them to get a better idea of what they were actually trying to do. I was skeptical about it, so I proposed the work, but they didn't like it. I knew they wouldn't like it because it was very provocative for what the Onassis Foundation represents. So then I played it sick and I didn't go.
Okay, but you were invited to participate, and it was your choice not to go, right?
Well, yeah.
Would you elaborate on your thoughts regarding this, assignment, commissions, Onassis Cultural Center, street art in Athens? Would you elaborate on this kind of context?
I have made large-scale murals, monumental murals, by self-funding. So, I'm collecting from various people, not collectors or high ranks, and from time to time I make such works, but elaborating with institutions that mainly focus on neutralizing various voices, art voices, and what I perceive as resistance or alternative approaching reality and social issues. No way.
Why so?
Because I think there are a lot of things to change in the Onassis Foundation before could accept that kind of polyphony. So I think at the moment they couldn't be in a way open enough for art practices and ideas like mine.
Okay. Yeah, my question is not only about Onassis Cultural Center.
In general.
It's in general. It's a general question. Right now, what happens in this street art scene in Athens is you got commissions. Not you personally, but I mean artists. They got commissions from the municipality of Athens. They got commissions from National Geographic. They got commissions from Friends Institute. How do you? What's your reaction towards this? What do you think about street art being part of the mainstream art in general? Institution system.
Okay. Well, first of all, I don't consider my art to be mainstream.
No, not your art. I didn't imply that.
Yeah, in general. Okay. Well, if they would fund me to make whatever I want, then I wouldn't say no. But do you think they would do that? They wouldn't, because there are institutional subjectivities. They wouldn't do that. They want to control. So funding an artist that would probably create questions about authority in general is not very convenient, is it?
Okay. So go ahead.
So if you don't receive funding, what kind of what's your reward for doing this kind of art? Do you just get like personal gratitude or?
Occasionally, but I do an irrelevant job just to be able to fund independently what I do. Some of my works are in a gallery in Athens, but no one buys them.
Which gallery?
Blender Gallery.
Okay.
They've got 3 of my works, but I don't think they're gonna be sold, to be honest. Maybe after my death.
Alright. Go ahead.
I noticed your work often features a dark-haired woman. What's the mentality behind choosing to portray a woman in so much of your work?
Well, sometimes I'm trying to, I don't know really, to be honest. I'm attracted to the platonic figure of woman. That's the most honest thing I could say.
Alright.
Can I have one more question?
Sure.
How you would define this at the moment the street art in relationship to the history of street art as we know it in Greece, in relationship to the global, and what we know now about the street artists in the global platform? How do you see street art in Athens?
Well, in Athens, what actually is happening is we have the mainstream artists, street art, and on the other hand, there is the underground. So I think in every art you could see that, in music as well. So in Athens, there is the street art for the tourists, and there is the street art for people who want to investigate further what historically is actually happening there. I would say that the underground movement is more related to movements such as the Situationists and other past movements. But it's very difficult to get in touch with the real thing. And, I consider myself lucky in a way that back in 2010 and 11, the major media actually made articles about what I do. But it was just then. It was the boost, and then the mainstream rose a lot, and what we present as underground now, as political street art in Athens, but what I perceive as the authentic political street art is more on the outskirts of the mass media and galleries and other institutions.
Someone else ask a question.
Do you wanna?
Sure. My question is, what inspired you to become an artist in the first place?
Well, back in mid zeros, I was residing in UK, and initially in Bristol, At that time, it was the big boost there of street art, and that affected me in a way. Um, a lot of people were making stencils there in Bristol, and I liked it. I followed a foundation course in arts while I was in the UK, and coming back to Greece, I started, doing stencils initially, but then I wanted to distance myself from this technique and this conception. So gradually, I created my style.
I'm curious about the overall response from the public, like to your work, because you said it's more underground, I suppose, not as mainstream, and like I feel how where you place it is usually around a lot of graffiti or like some other sort of vandalism, and it's way more relatable to the people. But what is like the actual response? Have you gotten a lot of response from the public, or is it pretty quiet?
Well, there are people that like my art, and there are people that hate what I do. Most of my works are destroyed, covered up, brushed over, not by the state, but by other artists. But on the other hand, I get messages and emails from people that find something in his creation. So it varies actually.
Christian, go ahead.
I have a few questions based on comments that were made before. I think you mentioned when you were responding to Lydia's question about the older ancient arts appearing in your works, and how you mentioned it was more to kind of bring in revolution to the people. Motivate revolution. Correct. Thank you. And then you mentioned how it didn't end up working, and now your works are more dystopian. I wonder what does that have to do with, like, the hope that is sensed throughout the city in Athens? Is there no hope, or what are your ideas for Greece for the future? Because obviously, if you're calling for revolution, it's something beyond what is already occurring. So you guys aren't trying to fix a system; you guys are trying to override it. Correct? Overthrow it. That would be revolution. So what is your hope post this overthrowing, or what is the idea for Greece next if this were to come to light? And what do your dystopian works say about that now?
Well, from my point of view, initially I was quite influenced by Chantal Mouffe's political philosophy, which presents a inevitable clash. So historically, what I understood at that point was the opportunity for a change, but a radical change. I don't see just an overthrow to change the system, but to suggest and propose something else. It doesn't have to be a rebellion using weapons or violence, but self-awareness. So using, for example, Delacroix's painting doesn't mean that we need to take guns, start shooting. On the other hand, though, what I saw was that the methodology of the authority of the European Union gradually established a social fear which reigns at the moment in Greece, and we saw that as in the referendum as well. So what I understand and what actually was revealed to me through time was that society is not ready for great changes at the moment. And I may, for example, dream of a collective society, but I don't see it coming through in the next years or so. So it's not that I was hoping, because in general wise I don't accept the term hope. I don't like it. My way of thinking, it means that you're waiting for a messiah or something. I don't like that.
Nice. Okay.
So, what my works now present is a more a way to turn into myself, into my inner thoughts about existence and society, politics in general.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for being with us.
Applause, please.
I know you would react to this, but it's our provocative move. Take it like this.